Yeah, what's up, Akame? Yeah, I'll get that set up in a second. Let's just say we are sleepy boy. Sleepy, sleepy. But how are you doing? How's it been? Also, did we play against you yesterday? It's almost the afternoon. Fair. Usually I like to have time to like shower and stuff in the morning, but I haven't. Like I haven't had shower, I haven't had coffee, so effectively, like I've been up for 2.5 hours, but I have like a routine and everything that I get done. When I don't do the routine, I feel sleepy. Alright. Yeah. Wait, who are you playing? I'm guessing you were playing with the other E-leader. Alright. Oh, Marluxia, let's go. W advice to Sun? Wait, what's the W advice? I'll relay. Are you saying having a second E-leader is the W idea? I told him to watch out. Wait, what do you mean? Oh, they died immediately. Hey. You can't run away from the Hakami E-leader. There's a couple of reviews that came through yesterday. I think we can start with starcole. They're the closest to the top. Do we have a second one? We do have a second one. Alright, so I think we have our two. We might be able to do a third one, but we're going to be playing in some EU tournament this afternoon. So, gotta make sure I have time for everything. Yo, Jamie, hello. Also, is today Thursday or Friday? Is today Friday? If so, that's crazy. Alright. Let's just get right into it. No frills, no nothing. Friday, let's go. I'm the hypest. Alright. Let's get into it. When is the next challenge? I know it's the fog one, which Vic on Twitter was talking about it and saying that like apparently the fog, like in the details of the challenge, it says the fog is supposed to be different like densities. Or like there's like more fog and less fog depending on the part of the match. Which actually seems kind of interesting. I don't know exactly what that'll mean. But it's interesting. Alright. It worked. Let's go. Let's get into it. Shoot. Umami BP X rank. Let's go. Update deleting codes, yeah. I have a feeling they're gonna also just like delete. They're probably gonna have another update because whatever they did with the limiting frame rate issues did not do anything. If anything, it actually made it worse. Or at least yesterday it felt miserable. There's no specifics about their specific rank. Yo, welcome in, starcole. Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in, Sylvie. Alright. So. Climblets. What surprises, or maybe I'm not surprised, but I don't know if Climblets warrants being in like the competitive maps and everything. I don't know if it's a good competitive mode. Probably not, because scoring's happening through the one single choke point, but because like no one ever goes like up here. I feel like I've never seen this. So I'm pretty sure you can make that jump. I think you can jump up there. Maybe not. But I feel like I never see the other team this way. There's been a couple of times where I've like been into their base and then I'll back out this way, but I don't know. Anyways, Splatoon maps. Yeah, very dangerous. Yeah, it's not very practical, but I don't know, something like a splatling or something. It's like, I feel like an idea should be there, but yeah, I wouldn't advise it, certainly. So on this map, Umami's a very interesting map, just in the respect of it's like relatively flat, and there's effectively just like 3 long lanes in mid. Obviously, you can interact with each of them, which is interesting. But like as a ballpoint, so when we look at the comps, there's like a lot of short range shooters and then a long range splatling. So as the ballpoint, we can kind of just bully lanes. Obviously, we want to take height when we can, but we can definitely like swing one side or the other if we're looking to push. If we can push top mid, like top mid's good as well. But we have to be careful about like these ledges and careful about this little step up to get in. So we want to make sure that things are under control as the ballpoint. One thing I would like to see, and I put a big emphasis, probably a bigger emphasis than I need to, but I think it's an important concept that people often forget, is like getting paint behind ledges. There's a lot of areas that people have to sit behind because this map is so open. So in mid, without even like being in the game at any point, the enemy's either going to be sitting. Oh wait, so we're blue team, so we're pushing this way. So they'll either be sitting behind here, behind here, behind here, behind here, potentially behind here. Like as we start moving up, so I don't know where we start at the beginning. I feel like we'd be fine starting like over here. We could be up here, could be over here. Although this is normally an E-leader spot, but you know, just probably play in this area. Push up if we can. But as we start moving forward, just making sure that we get paint in these little boxed areas before we start pushing, and just make, like, we don't have to do it every time, but if there is reasonable enough suspicion that someone's there, it's good to know. Because we have like, our team has double splat bomb, so they should be able to poke at it themselves. Burst bomb should be able to do it themselves. But as a ballpoint, we can get a lot of really good paint in these types of areas, and I really like that as we're pushing. So I wouldn't like slow down what we're trying to do completely for that, but like as we're in certain spots, like if we're sitting up here, if we don't have the room to just move forward because we have a bunch of them down, make sure that we're getting paint behind here. Make sure we're getting paint behind here. We can do it from like our side of mid. Yo, what's up, Sage? Welcome in, welcome in. Hello, hello, hello. Having a nice Friday. But on the other side, such good, I don't even know what that means, but thank you. Welcome in, Jorge. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Yeah, on this map, we're gonna need the ability to like push forward with like through this area, which is gonna be kind of tough for our team. I think our getting good paint that I was talking about before, if we sit up here, I don't actually know, I have to test it, but I think from up here we should be able to paint like behind this area, on top of this area. We can help with some of this paint. And like as we move forward, we can like get paint behind these areas and just like the common spots where the enemy has to shark. Just so it's a little bit easier for the rest of our team to be able to get in. That's good to keep in mind. The other thing is like with your jetpack, like jetpacking from over here and like going up over the dome is good. You can jetpack from back here, but your landing's going to be a little bit risky and you can go in from that way. But you can jetpack back here, just take your height advantage and like hit a lot of those common spots I was talking about. So like even if you jetpack and get height here, get height here, you can still hit these behind ledge spots that your team needs cleared before you're able to actually push. But I don't want you to be the one going in and scoring as the backline. Your extra range and your paint and your fizzy bombs to clear out these areas when your team's ready to push, your jetpacks or ink jets, all that stuff is very, very, very important. So I want you to be very disciplined in supporting your team wherever they're trying to move. Outside of that, there is a cute route that you can take to climb up here. You can jump across to this grate and you can have easier access to here versus having to swim in and go backwards. You never want to be in a position where you're like, when you turn back here, you don't want to have your face to the enemy team. So if you're in the goal is to take up here, you can path this way. But in general, I think you don't need super massive pushes here. Like holding mid is very, very strong in general. So I would opt for you to just play for control than, you know, going in and getting splatted for 1 or 2 extra climbs. This should not be good. Hey, it'll be good for learning. And, you know, I'm always here to be proven wrong. I'm not a perfect player mechanically. My ideas aren't always 100% perfect. Thank you for the hydrate. Same idea. But I just like to give my perspective. Also, welcome in, Olivia. Hello, hello, hello. But we have a nice range advantage. So again, I want us to be playing high ground. I want us to be playing like these long open spaces throughout the map. Okay, so we're setting up behind this pillar. I'll let you cook in the beginning and then I'll kind of talk through stuff. Ouch. Yeah, we kind of got chipped by a bunch of stuff. A little bit unfortunate. A couple things that I want to mention though. I don't know if we necessarily... So, and again, I'm not trying to be super nitpicky, but I just want to think about this stuff. Because like, this fizzy bomb just feels like autopilot-y in like the grand scheme of things. And I just want to talk about the opening a little bit more generally. When I see this type of fizzy bomb, I'm expecting you to want to like swim. I'm guessing you're going to want to try to like go over here like as fast as possible. And like that timing window is important to you. But then you just throw another fizzy bomb when you're over there. And the one thing I just want to mention, when you throw 2 fizzy bombs, that basically drains your entire ink economy, which we don't want, obviously. We want to have as much paint as we can at any point. Fizzy bombs are usually good for chip. If your goal is to just paint, your main weapon is more ink efficient and you'll be able to just get more paint down. So earlier on, I don't necessarily, especially in something like Clam Blitz, I don't think we need to fight super hard for stuff at the very beginning. One thing I would be interested in is if you painted to get up to this ledge and you got here, I'm okay with a fizzy bomb like bouncing and getting you like chip and stuff for anyone else that's trying to contest you and use it for that kind of safety, because I think that's worth it. But as a ballpoint, your weapon paints really, really well. And I want to make sure that we're getting paint. You know, paint over here, paint over here. You can get on top of here and paint, that's fine. You can get on top of here like I'm saying and get general paint around the map. There's a lot of areas that you can do it, but we don't have something that we're necessarily rushing for. So I'm okay for us just to kind of paint for our inkjet. Because I feel like we don't have a complete focus of what we're trying to do here. Like I feel like we're just throwing this to throw it. And I'm okay with the use of fizzy bombs, but I just want to make sure that we're not autopiloting and just throwing bombs because we can throw bombs. Because throwing bombs demolishes your ink economy. And over time, when a lot of these windows, because again, as you get better, timing windows of everything you do are going to get shorter and shorter. And throwing these 2 bombs is causing you not to get specialists fast. You're not getting as much paint on the ground for the rest of your team, even though you have a team of 3 shooters, so like your team has a lot of good painting, but comparatively to their team also has a lot of good painting. So I just want us to be thinking about how we decide to use our ink at the beginning here. And if we used a bomb to get into a certain spot, like if we used it to rush this way and then we got into this spot and we were looking for something specific, I'm more accepting. But I don't see a thought specifically that we deliberately needed to use these fizzy bombs. And we're going to find ourselves in situations where we're going to be without ink, especially if we have something like a fizzy bomb. Fizzy bombs are very good, but when you watch a lot of really good ballpoint players, they will opt to use their main weapon to paint in almost every kind of situation. Fizzy bombs are usually good if you're stalling. Fizzy bombs are good if you have a full ink tank right before you're about to inkjet, because you might as well get that value out of a bomb before you use your special, because once you use your special, you have a full ink tank again. But that's just some opening thoughts based off of this behavior. Again, there's nothing bad about this, but I just want us to be aware of these things, because if this is just something that we do without thinking about it and we just autopilot, I'm just going to throw bombs over here. And like, you know, maybe 1 out of 100 games, like someone somehow gets stuck in the bomb and I get a splat. I don't want that to reinforce that behavior. Because again, a fizzy bomb here, if we want to get a fizzy bomb here, this would help a lot more with what we're doing here and anyone else that might be peeking over here. The other thing when we're up here, like I was talking about at the beginning, oh shoot, this is where we want to get paint in all of these areas. It's like paint on this ledge because this is their step up, which we have because we just got the pick. But like getting some paint over here before we start moving forward is really good. And I would probably opt to play behind this pillow and get all of that paint down in a lot of these areas. So paint behind here, and then as we slowly move up, this is where I'm not sure exactly how much paint the long range ballpoint can do, but if we can get some paint behind here and just some paint in this general area, because this is generally where the enemy team's going to be kind of moving from. They can flank through here, so like you have to also keep an eye on paint on both of these like sides to make sure there's no flanks, but yeah, as much as a charger, gotcha. I don't play backline, so like that's a good thing to keep in mind, but in terms of like how far we can get paint sitting safely behind this cover, I'm not sure. But because we don't get this paint, and we can probably watch it from the overhead, but everyone is on their team is able to just move freely. And yes, it's unfortunate you kind of get splatted by the torpedo here, but you're going to get rushed by this person and you're going to get caught off guard because we don't have this paint down at the beginning. So I like the aggressive play. You find a target and you go for it, but we can't go for this type of play unless we have everything around us secured first. Otherwise, we leave ourselves open to this type of play. And this is one of the important things. Yo, welcome in, Rico. This is one of the important things as a backliner, especially a backliner that can paint, which Splatwings kind of fit that bill, is that you can do safe painting for your team that no one else on your team is feasibly able to do. Sometimes they'll use long paint and poke over cover. Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what we want to be doing in this spot. And this is a great demonstration of the potential dangers and risk of not getting this paint down over here, is that this person sees an opportunity to push forward and they're ready to just jump on you. And now you're taking a short range fight against this person and they don't have to worry about any like paint issues. Like, especially making sure that we get paint at least here. But I you know, you're looking at this junior and like there's a chance that you get this trade. If you play this out a few more times, you might get this trade before this person splats you, but I don't like that trade. As a ballpoint, we're way more valuable than that. Because the other thing of a backline that we were talking about yesterday, if you were here for Lila's VOD, but they were playing Charger, and as a backliner, just being that anchor and being that jumping point for your team is really important. So I'd rather you get paint on their side of snipe, hold that area, let your teammates fight. You know, keep painting if your teammate's taking a fight. So your 52 is pushing the far right, or sorry, you don't have 52. But your splash was over here. If your splash takes a fight with this person, then you can look to move forward and help with that. But let's just say they take this fight and then your splash goes down. If you're painting during this time, you can back up a little bit here and you can give a safe jump to your teammate. And that's how we want to be thinking about the game. It's not really important for us to get, like, it's not to say we should never go for these types of plays, but we have to make sure that we're ourselves and everything around us is safe first, so that we're not getting pushed from these little step ups in the mid. But I like the idea. The overall positioning and everything there is really good. We're not painting before we start trying to take space, and that gets us in trouble. Alright, let's see us get some paint. 2 teammates are down, so we probably want to chill a little bit. And this is where we want to get that good paint. Okay. This initial pick for the T-Tech is still a little bit dangerous just because we don't know everyone's position. But I like that you have the discipline not to overcommit. You know, you take your shots. If you get the splat, you get it, and then you immediately move back. I'm way more okay with this than the junior, but I just want us to know that for both of these plays, the opening against the junior on their dome and the T-Tech on this little grate area, both of these have inherent risk because we're moving so far forward. The enemy team has a player advantage and they still have paint to maneuver underneath us. So I just want to keep that in mind. I'm okay with these types of risk, but I just want to put all of this contextually so that you're thinking about these things. Yeah, and you see, you have to waste so much time. So I'm guessing you were probably trying to... I wish you could see your ink as you were going in. But like, you get these shots, you run out of ink, and 1, 2... Like, you have to sit in ink for like 2.5 seconds just to get enough to throw another fizzy bomb, and then you're down for another 2.5 seconds to be able to start painting again. Oh, Killa and Gray, thank you so much. Appreciate the follow. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you have some nice weekend plans. And welcome in. And this is the problem of just defaulting and autopiloting with these fizzy bombs. Because, you know, like, there's a chance that maybe we can hit this thing and like we can potentially get a pick. But it's just really important for us to be thinking about how we're using our ink. Because your sub is a very time efficient way of using your ink, but it's not good at all in paint output. So we want to have good reasons for using bombs. And so far with the 3 bombs, now 4 bombs that we've thrown, I haven't been convinced. And if you have an explanation, please, you know, again, I'm totally open for like a debate or just, you know, hearing your perspective so I have a better understanding. But these bombs, like all the bombs you've thrown so far, I would have rather you painted in basically every situation. Again, I'm not trying to be like mean or like nitpick or anything, but I see myself in these plays, and I would just, you know, back when I was playing K-Shot and when I played other, I mean, even in Splash for Splatoon 3, I would just throw 2 burst bombs just always because I had the ability to do it, and it gets me into trouble, and it's hard because ink management, taking this feedback, okay, thank you. ink management is so hard because you often don't directly get punished for it, but it has long-term macro implications. And we don't usually think about how we're using our ink or using subs too often as part of the reason why that's the issue. You know, because it's more of like you'll see symptoms of that issue, but like ink management in your ink economy is like a very blurry type of idea. So I just want to point it out because it's going to be hard for you to just watch your own gameplay and come to that conclusion, because I struggled with that. Soft encounter, gotcha. Yeah, one thing that one idea I want to implement into your head is that you can get that same soft pressure without using half of your ink tank by just painting. And especially as like painting with ballpoint is very difficult and very awkward, and it's a skill that you have to actually build. So it's one thing that I'm not sure how comfortable you are with painting, because you're gonna, as a ballpoint, you're probably gonna want to paint just based off of the 49 seconds we've seen so far. There's a lot more intricate painting that I want to see you do, and just more just general cover painting. Like Bro Olivia was saying, like painting behind ledges and painting behind these ledges, painting behind these ledges as you're moving up is all really important. So I want you to be doing that and being comfortable with the range of your weapon. But because ballpoint is really weird in the way that you have to like keep tapping for the short fire and stuff, when you get your general base paint and stuff, and by not bases in your own base, but like just general coverage of paint. So when you're sitting in mid, you can get general paint, which right now your team has, you know, done a good job of paint overall. But, you know, if you need to paint over on this side, if you need to paint in front of you, often you're just going to use the short range part of it. And there's like a weird kind of rhythm that you have to get into it. So if you're not comfortable with that rhythm, I'm not comfortable because I don't play ballpoint, but if you're not comfortable with it, I would just definitely recommend watch high level ballpoints. And if you don't know where to look, Negora is probably one of the best splatlings to ever exist. And they have a YouTube channel, and I'm sure you could find, like, they probably have a very recent ballpoint game, but you can definitely look through and they have a lot of stuff. But just watch them play and just generally see how they paint. Try to go into Recon mode and like replicate what they do, just so you get comfortable. And if you need those links, just let me know. I can support or I can provide the YouTube link a little bit later, unless someone else has it. I'm a simple-minded person, so I'm not sure what you're saying. For the most part, I agree. Please do. I got you. All right, real quick, I'll get you. Just because Negora is a really good resource, and if there's someone that is a super high-level player that plays the exact same weapons, I want to make sure that I'm... These are the times where I wish that I... spoke Japanese. Right. Yeah, they also play a lot of heavy, so it's gonna depend on the like I said, you might have to scroll through a little bit, but yeah, let me get you these. So pretty sure they're yeah, okay. So I'm gonna give you two links. This is Negora. Whenever I send channels, sometimes people will make their own videos. So that's Negora. So look under the videos tab and also look under the live tab, because a lot of times when they do like a full solo queue rotation, usually it's zones, but if they do a full rotation or if they play in a tournament, usually they'll live stream it on YouTube. But there's also a video section where sometimes they make like more condensed videos with just games. So you may have to look, like some people, they only do live stuff. Some of them, they only do videos. So definitely look. I believe this is Ryukun, if I'm not mistaken. They're another really good spelling player. So both of those are very good resources, and they have quite a bit of high level gameplay. So like when I start talking about like painting, like that painting behind cover and just getting good general paint, watch what they do during openings and just kind of, you know, keep it in the context that they're playing, you know, a specific map or a specific mode, but really look at the most intricate fine details in the way that they do things. And you can assume that like 95% of what they're doing is like correct. You know, correct is like a weird term because nothing's really truly correct in this game. But if you're trying to learn and you're watching a top player like that, like, yes, they're going to make mistakes all the time, but just assume that what they're doing is correct. Don't try to criticize like, oh, like they should be actually doing this, or they should actually be doing this. Like for the most part, they know what they're doing and stuff. So, you know, it's not to say that everything that they do is 100% the perfect play, but it'll get you a lot more in the right direction. And just having exposure to these high level players and just the way that they paint, the way that they maneuver, where they're positioning, kind of through osmosis, if you're like paying attention and watching, you can study that. And I guess it's not really osmosis to that point, but you know, you can study the way that they play and get a lot from that. And because there's a lot of things you'll miss just watching your own gameplay and watching the gameplay of people around you. Yo, what's up, Mystic? Wait, we played last night? GG's. Is your name Mystic in on Splatoon? Or is it something else? Because I did play a little bit of open, played a couple of rotations. But GG's. Yeah. That fizzy bomb's a little bit less bad because it helped kind of paint a trail for your teammate, but your teammate probably shouldn't have pushed in here. Also, yeah, this is where like this fizzy bomb is like bad because we really, oh, Japanese, okay, gotcha. Well, GG's. This is where instead of throwing the second fizzy bomb, we want to get paint all in this area. Get paint behind this box, get paint behind this box. You can get paint into their pit area, but that doesn't really matter. You can get paint here, you can get paint behind here with the long range. You can probably get some paint in this area. This is where we want to get this type of paint. And throwing the oh, you're playing with Akami. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I definitely remember that. It was the zones game on Mahi. I see. Yeah, it was a really good game. You almost KO'd us. Fortunately, we were able to make it back in. That was a fun match. I like that you didn't drag the whale completely to your teammates, but yeah, definitely be mindful of it. When you're approaching in this type of spot, again, we want to make sure that we're getting paint down before we start taking fights without any sort of paint. Because like right here, like we're not really safe behind this cover because there's a ton of lanes for people to be potentially like moving into us. I would probably be backing up and giving up space a little bit faster than you do. Like back up a little bit and get paint on these areas so that this person can't push up. Because especially when they're like using their specials and everything, like I understand that like we have a player advantage, so I don't want us to like back up completely, but we need to back up a little bit to respect what they're doing. And then if we back up, we can paint over these areas and then they can't push us. But this is just a very scary sight. And like I like that you drop out because you feel that it's an uncomfortable situation and you move out of it. So I like that. I really like that. But there's a chance that they could have pushed you a little bit faster, and it's not that you can't win that fight because ballpoint can definitely fight for itself in the short range, but it's just very scary. And it's an unneeded risk when we're up a person. Yeah, and like you were trying to do there, which I like that you fully retreat. This is really good discipline. But exactly like what you're trying to do here, when you back off this ledge, like we need to make sure we're backed up enough so that this person can't push. But I love that we're trying to paint over this ledge. We want to give ourselves a buffer so that when we start moving back forward, there's not someone here ready to drop on us. So I'm not sure if that's 1000% like what you're consciously trying to do. But yeah, when we're trying to move back up, again, granted in this spot, we mostly have map control. But if we're in this type of spot and we want to go up to mid again and we want to play up here, yeah, we want to make sure that we get paint up over on this spot before, so that there isn't someone just sharking and waiting for us and dropping on us. So I like that idea. Oops. Yeah, that actually could be a spot where we get a fizzy bomb off a little bit earlier if we saw that our splash was flanking behind. That fizzy bomb could have potentially helped with that fight, but they got the wall down, so there isn't a great angle. You'd have to like throw it up and hit a very nice angle. But we're last person. Their enemy team should be dropping in all these places, and we need to make sure that we're not in a position to get picked here. I like that we back out because that's what we need to do, but I think we probably should do it a little bit faster. Because again, against stronger and stronger opponents, they're going to be a lot faster here. And if they catch you sitting like up here and they're dropping over here and they're moving in this way, like they'll just run at you and probably get the pick pretty fast. Okay, we have Ja. Well, let's play. Nice try, nice try. So there's one little detail before we use our inkjet here that I just want to put in the context, because we end up losing a lot of value on this play. Like at this point, we're really close to special and we're getting pressured at this point. So I definitely expect you to want to special in this spot. But the one note that I want to mention, before we just immediately pop our special when we're panicked, I want to get good information on what this person's doing. And I love that we're just continually moving back and creating distance between us and the short range shooter. Because if they keep pushing down this ramp, we'll win this fight. So I like the way that we're positioning here. But this person's painting, and then you see them like go back into ink and they're looking to turn around, which technically they could be using that as bait and they could be pushing us. But that should be an indication to us that they're not trying to take this engagement, and we're under less pressure to have to use our inkjet immediately. So I'd rather use that time and get some more paint up here. I know that we're low on our paint, but we can still slow down a tiny bit in this spot and try to set up for a stronger inkjet, if that makes sense. Like this inkjet isn't terrible, but we're doing it from so far back. And we have the ball, so like, you know, if we push up too fast, like they can just splat us because they know where we're at. But yeah, I think inkjetting from like back here is like not ideal. It's not awful, but I think we could have been a little bit more patient. Again, this is pretty minor. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but there's going to be those types of opportunities where if you're getting pushed and stuff, like wait for them to fully commit in order to do that. Because like they pop Kraken, but you're in no danger to Kraken right now. And one of the values when you watch these high level ballpoints and stuff, one way that they get a lot of value, and same thing with zipcasters, anything that like takes off the ground and stuff, they get a ton of value by having this Kraken. So you're scared of this Kraken pushing you, but like wait for them. Like we have a good vantage point here, and we have enough of a buffer in case someone starts pushing us. But I don't want us to use our inkjet until this Kraken starts running at us. Because if they waste their time over here to try to splat us, then we inkjet and we're totally safe, you know? We get up to a high ground, or we get up to a high ground. And I want them to be a little bit more deliberate with them pushing. That was the same thing with the T-Tech. If they are pushing us while we're moving back, either we can take the fight, or if we run out of ink, we can pop our inkjet and like take that fight when they're trying to actually push us. And if they don't push us, then we don't have to use our special as quickly. Again, the special isn't bad, but we use it a little bit preemptively and we're a little bit farther away from the fight. And it's just one thing that I want to keep in mind. Because part of the value of using a special that you recall to, you know, Zipcaster, you can like basically go to the other side of the map if you'd want. This one, as an inkjet, you fly into the air, so there's a lot of threats, especially against their short range shooters that no longer exist. And the Kraken, it no longer exists when you inkjet. And I want our timing window to be a little bit stronger there, because they decommit to this play and this Kraken's looking at someone else. So we're not as much in a rush. This feels like a panic crack or a panic inkjet. Again, the idea isn't bad, but these little timing windows, these fractions of seconds, which you probably could have held off for another couple of seconds, honestly. You probably could have waited, like you probably could have gotten ink for like a fizzy bomb and then like gone in with your fizzy bomb. But I understand, like the enemy team's trying to push, so I'm okay with you getting the inkjet out. But min-maxing these, like when you use your inkjet so that you can actually find a pick. Because when we use our inkjet in this spot, like, yes, we see people over here, but like realistically, we're not going to be able to get this pick, you know? And like when we use our special, we want to try to get value. We can get value by just existing, and us existing here and getting this height over here demotivates them, or it makes it less likely for them to just like push this choke and score with the claims that they have. So we do get value out of the inkjet. I'm not saying that this is like a bad inkjet or anything, but I would rather bait these people a little bit more and try to find a way for you to get extra value from this inkjet. And those are like little margins of value that people often don't think about. It's the timing of it. It's, you know, is the enemy team committing to me? If they're not, then I can still be a threat, because they don't want to push you, partially because you're a ballpoint and you outrange them, but partially because you do have inkjet ready. So sometimes holding the threat that, yes, at any point I can inkjet here, you have to fear me, versus, oh, I inkjet, you can just run away and wait for it to go out. Again, just things that I want you to think about. This is like totally a fine play, but I just want to, I want you to consider all of the potential value and the decision making that goes into using a special like this. Yo, what's up, Sanic? Welcome in, welcome in. But again, this is a good job preventing them from scoring. One of your teammates got splatted, so like, you know, your teammates can hold, and this gives more time for your splat to get back into position. So overall, it's like, this is better than getting splatted, certainly, and this is like a totally fine inkjet. But again, I just want to make sure that we're thinking about this stuff, and I'm kind of putting these ideas in your head so that we're thinking about this for the future time. Because we probably could have moved a little bit more forward before we use inkjet here, or we just sit here and like wait for the Kraken to go. If you see them make a clam and you start seeing them dash for the basket, then you can look to move forward. Because if the enemy team's trying to push, this is the thing about their Kraken right now, is that if the enemy's trying to push, does the Kraken really want to go away from their teammates scoring? Or does the Kraken want to like help their team get the score, you know? Like, you're giving this Kraken extra value by inkjetting immediately. But you holding your inkjet and sitting back here out of the Kraken's ability to get to you easily puts this Kraken in a difficult spot. Do I help with this push? Do I go after this ballpoint? What am I supposed to do in this spot? And it's really awkward. This Kraken's under a lot of pressure until you pop your inkjet. Then it's like, oh, okay, like they used inkjet, so I'm gonna back up. Teammates are gonna wait this out. We don't have to worry about inkjet. After this inkjet's done, we can push and we don't have to worry about the inkjet anymore. But they've already committed their Kraken before you use your inkjet. And you probably could have waited this out until the Kraken was over and had a stronger push. Because yes, this person goes after you, but they're not gonna get you with that immediate play. You get into the air pretty quickly. And because you're farther back, and this is where like your positioning matters. Because you're so far back here, you have a lot of time before this Kraken runs at us. And if they were gonna get those like that long range charge and you were scared of that threat, you'll visibly see them like charge up their thing. And when they're charging that up, at that point, I'm told like you probably could still min-max it further, but at that point I would be uncomfortable. And I'm totally fine. You see them charge and you see them running at you. I'm okay at that point. Let's use our inkjet and make sure that we don't get splatted by that. But right now, when they use their stuff here, you paint this ramp so they can't just run at you anymore. So you're chilling. We are chilling. This thing is not a threat until it moves over here, gets to this point, and starts charging up. When it starts charging up, at that point, we can look to pull the trigger because there's a chance they could roll back over here, but they've put us in this awkward spot where we're getting threatened with a splat. And that's where being like, cool and calm in these spots matter. Because this person was not a threat. They're still not a threat. Even if we were still in inkjet, or if we were in ballpoint, they're still not a threat until like at this point. And even then they didn't start charging, but that's like 1.5, 2 seconds that you can have your inkjet longer, A, and B, this person is moved over this way. So these people that are protecting the base, they don't have to worry about a Kraken running at them because the Kraken has made their decision to run after you. Again, this is like, this isn't going to make or break the games for you, but I'm trying to look at longer term improvement. And these are like these weird gray concepts that there isn't always a perfect decision. And the decision you made was fine, but we can get more value. And there's inherent value by just holding your inkjet. And I want this person to commit. Like, before they fully committed, we were already in the air. I want them to commit, and then we get into the air. Because even if we're down in this area, like, we can still inkjet and use, like, this great area. Like, obviously, it's a little bit awkward here. But we can get up to this point and still defend people going through this choke. But yeah, this is totally fine. Enemy team backs up because they were waiting for inkjet to be over, and we're making sure no one's getting through. I'm totally like, the way this inkjet played out is totally fine. We can just potentially do like a little bit better. And as someone that has a separate perspective from you, this is probably a perspective that you may not fully realize, and that's just what my goal is here. I don't play from that area often enough. It seems like a nice distraction skirmish zone to pull people off objective. Yeah, it's like you're still in a pit. Like when you're down here, you're in a pit. So it's like, it's not great, but it's not bad. Again, if we have inkjet in these spots, we can inkjet under these ledges and go up, and we get a lot more value. But as a ballpoint, it's definitely better to take high ground if we can take high ground. But this was definitely one of those circumstances where the enemy team's pushing us. We totally could have jumped out. Like when we started backing up here, we totally could have jumped out and looked to take high ground on these sides of the map. But again, I think the way we played it is like totally valid. This whole play is like totally fine. I'm not trying to criticize that this is like a bad play, because this whole play is like, I'm totally okay with it. But I just want to talk about, as you continue playing, things for you to think about to continue to improve. I wonder how different weapons would be if inkjet, instead of giving you explosive launcher, just gave you your weapon as you're flying. Isn't that the concept of like Zipcaster though? It would be funny though. Also, welcome in, Sons. Hello, hello, hello. It would be a lot scarier. It'd be like a Spider-Man villain or something. And then my inkjet skills aren't the best. Again, this is totally fine. I'm more concerned about the min-maxing on the timing, like the timing of when you use it. I'm less concerned, like you're hitting shots in like relevant areas. If you move forward, one thing that people can get into trouble when they're using inkjet is just naturally like continuing to move forward. And if you kept moving forward here to go for a pick on these people that are retreating, then I would have a problem with this inkjet, because with this paint in this area, if you keep moving forward, there could be people sharking under this ledge. And then when you start dropping after you get past this point, this is how people get splatted when they're in inkjet by short range shooters. So even though like we didn't get a pick here, I like the discipline on this inkjet. this is still a defensive inkjet to deter the enemy team from wanting to push. So I like that we're not going aggressive and moving forward toward these people that we can see. Because that's where we get into danger, and that's where, you know, inkjetting underneath these non-painted areas can get us into trouble. So again, overall, I think this inkjet totally fine. All of this is like a thumbs up in my book, but it can be more optimal. Timing of the inkjet's the hardest part, absolutely. It changes the dynamic of like everything. That's a lot of this game. Like the timing windows matter a ton. Dying in the choke, trying to retreat, gotcha, yeah. Yeah, if you're stuck in the choke, like yeah, dropping this way is like good. There's like extra space so your back's not to the wall. And you can do the thing where like as you drop, you can look to jump. So like some of your jump, like you jump at the same time, but it's technically like a little bit faster because part of that time of the jump animation, like as you're falling down this ledge, if you jump at the top of this ledge, your fall is included in when the jump actually takes place. So that can like negate some of the animation. That's completely separate from this, but that made me think about that. Imagine a charger. Yeah, charger think that would be kind of crazy. If they could just shoot a charger. That would actually be a Spider-Man villain. Figured I'd chill here for a bit. Mince me, Brinewater TC. Yikes. Yo, what's up, Sully? Hello, hello. I'm doing just to get an enemy you can see, but it's okay to ignore to help with a choke. I think the way you played it is fine. There's no like correct answer where like you should focus on one or the other. I think going for this person, is that a person? I don't even know. Yeah. So, okay. Let me just, we'll keep going, but let me just quickly look at this inkjet at the potential threats. So we pop it here. We see someone scattering this way. We see someone scattering this way, which I think they are the one that end up going up onto this ledge. Like we take this initial shot, which is totally fine. We're getting up here so we don't potentially die to the Kraken, which is good. At this point, you know, we're getting shots. We saw someone over here, so like we're kind of potentially guessing their movement. So all of this, like, again, once they get to a position where they're kind of out, I'm okay with us looking at this place instead. You could go for these shots. You see someone here, you saw for a second there. We did see someone down here, so we could keep shooting at this specific area. So I don't know where these people ended up going. One of them might be sharking underneath us potentially, but bomb the penguin. Hello, hello. Yo, what's up, you? Wait, did you send the new code after the Did you send a new code after that initial form? Because I think you sent the code when the VOD replay codes broke. So I don't know if I have a viable code yet, but we haven't looked at it yet, and we probably won't be able to look at it today because I'm a little bit short on time. I might be able to stream later this afternoon. We'll have to see. But yeah, there's a tournament in like a couple hours, and I need to be prepared and ready for that. Okay, so they all ended up backing out this way. I didn't know if there was a chance that someone was still potentially sitting down here. But yeah, I mean, technically you can still hit these people, but I'm fine with the way that we play it. If we don't hit these spots and these people start pushing in on our teammates, and then it could be a scary situation. You know, this 52 has a wall. So if we're like focused on like this person over here and we're just getting shots on this area, then like this 52 has paint here. They can throw down a wall, maybe push this T-Tac and like get a pick. This is the only review. We'll have one more review after this. But this weekend I'll have a lot more time. So yeah. Anyways, at this point, we probably want to get out of this area. So we might want to look to jump to one of our teammates in this spot. You know, if we can move forward, that's fine. And if we can paint forward, that's fine. But I can tell that we're uncomfortable here and we just need to find a way out. And jumping to either one of our teammates is usually pretty fine. Because again, if we stay in this place for too long, especially when they know we're here, it's just like, technically there's a bit of a threat there, but it's just not a good spot for you to be in. You could get a lot more value taking high ground and watching the, like, again, if you're up here, we can watch this, we can watch this. There's a lot of open lanes for us to be able to cover. You know, same thing if we're, you know, even if we're like over here, you know, there's open lanes that we can keep an eye on in this type of spot. And we don't have enough information. Like, we can paint behind here from this spot and we can paint in front of us, but there's probably a lot of people that are like sharking in this area that can look to push us. So at some point we probably have to just cut our losses and just jump back here and reposition. It doesn't take too long to do, but yeah, I think we overstay a little bit, but that T-Tech kind of disrespects and you punish them. Nice try, nice try. It might not have been a bad idea for you to start painting in your short range mode a little bit earlier, just to get paint on the ground. Because when that person's running at you, oops, I didn't go back far enough. When this person's running at you, if you just hold your fire down when they're running at you, like they would have to run into you basically. And getting shots off earlier, so like if we're already shooting now, we're painting this area, so either they back up, or if they continue to try to move forward and jump at us or just keep trying to swim forward, they'll get stuck in our paint and stuck in our suppression, and we just get that spot for free. So just in terms of being a little bit safer here, I would have painted a slightly earlier when they were up here versus starting to shoot when they're down here. Again, super minor, but just wanted to mention it. Because we might not get the pick there if the 52 plays it super disciplined, but we never get splatted in that spot. One thing I want to mention in this part, one, you're really low on ink because you initiated that with a fizzy bomb. But I don't think the fizzy bomb is bad. I think I think it's fine, but these are the consequences of our actions. Like, again, I think this fizzy bomb is fine to get in this area, but I don't think it does get there. Yeah, fizzy bomb's fine. But yeah, I'd be careful about this type of peak. At this point, I would probably look to reposition. Like, I like that we played it slow and we just held our charge here. But I don't think we necessarily need to peek in this type of situation. Again, we're finding ourselves into this pit. And even if the heavy was there, which, you know, they're probably retreating once the push is gone. But, yeah, like peeking out and going for like that type of play against what we think is a heavy there when we have no paint is potentially a little bit dangerous. Because we might get stuck with like at height disadvantage if we get stuck in the pit and we have no paint because we used the fizzy bomb initially. Which again, I think the fizzy bomb, like the idea is great. I think that fizzy bomb's totally good. Like I actually think that's good. But yeah. Our team moving up and the heavy drop back. So then my question is, why are we dropping here? What are we looking to do by dropping into this pit in this spot? Again, it's rather inconsequential because you know, the push is dead and we have the space to start moving forward. But why are we taking this path here? Heat and clams. So we did a tiny bit of painting. And we got 3 clams. Again, this isn't bad, but I don't think this is necessarily worth it. The reason for it is because this team just pushed. So there's a lot of paint on this map. There's a lot of paint for us to get. And we can either drop and paint this area and paint this area, or we can get up here and paint this area and start poking at mid and covering our teammates when they're pushing in. And like in this spot, is it better to cover this area with paint and be on low ground? Or is it better to be on high ground? You know, not be able to paint all the exact same things, but you know, we can pressure mid, we can watch this. We can watch mid up here. We can watch this zone. We can keep this area open, and we can do a better job of covering our team that's like trying to push through. And as a backliner, I like that trade also. Again, this is like not bad, but we have to look at the bigger picture, and it's more important to get paint in mid than getting paint in this pit. We can get that paint eventually. Like we probably can get all this paint. We'll probably have special anyways, but if we didn't have special, then like as we're moving this way, we can probably do a little bit of painting here and figure that out. But I'm more focused on taking back control of this while the enemy team's spawning in and trying to get back into mid than these 3 clams and like getting this area covered in paint. Our team loses a lot of pressure here because all of these fights that are going on here, they have a backliner in position potentially to help, and we do not. We know that we don't have a backliner in position to be able to help our teammates. And again, like overall, getting to this spot, looking up to move here, like all this is fine, but the way that we positioned and dropping out low ground down here to do that, that's where I potentially contest that play. And again there, we probably, like the inkjet is not awful, but we probably could have held it for a little bit longer. We could have just painted this area and just waited for the whale to go out. Like we were definitely under some pressure, but I think we cracked and we ended up using our special a little bit faster than we needed to. I think we were safer there than we thought we were. But again, you're totally fine. The way you use the inkjet in that spot is like, again, it's fine. There aren't a lot of threats because they didn't pressure you, so you're not going to be able to get picks unless you hit like these crazy shots. But I'm fine with it. Again, as a ballpoint, you're able to get inkjets quite often. I would like to see them get more value on average because that's how you can actually sustain longer pushes. But it's fine. I don't like us positioning down here. Like I don't like us getting comfortable down here is the way I should be saying it. Because we're wasting a lot of time and like our teammates are having to take a lot of bad matchups from us sitting over here. And like one of your short range shooters can use this cover and chill in this area and they can like swing this way or they can push mid. But I'd rather them do that with you on high ground covering them than you being over here and making sure this area is covered. Because this is like not a good area. Situationally, it can be like you can have some good ideas. And like when we were down here before, when they used Kraken and they were pushing, like I was fine for you being there because there was a reason for you to be there, but we want to take good spots when, you know, we stop their push and we're able to move forward. But yeah, in all these parts at a certain point, we just have to cut our losses and just jump back. Because we can't really reposition from here. That's part of the reason why this place is so bad. It's like we can't really reposition in this type of spot. But there's not a lot of ways for us to really get a lot of value here. That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. We're gonna very quickly watch this whole scenario when you're sitting in pit from an overhead perspective. So like your team has the numbers. If you go up here and you start painting this area, your team has more numbers in mid faster than their team does. So you have an advantage. You should, like, you can't take mid for free at this point, but you should definitely be able to start taking your side of mid in this type of scenario. But that timing window matters. We have to be fast. And because we're not and we're playing in pit, this is how the rest of this plays out. Like, you still don't have your half fully covered. You're still fighting for like part of your half of paint, but again, they have their backliner in mid that can get paint in important areas. You're sitting here and you kind of can, but you don't have height advantage. And you're just like in an awkward spot. So your teammates take fights. This backliner is able to help during all of these fights. You are unable to. And granted, in this spot, like, your junior uses bubble early, so like they're committing to not play this. But in this type of spot, this is where we probably want to reposition to get back up here. Always take high ground whenever we can. And like, technically this can be high ground, but this isn't a great spot. Situationally, it's okay, but it's not a great spot. This is generally a pretty good spot. Or even sitting on this block can be like an okay spot. Not when their team's pushing. When you have 2 down, you can't sit here. Like, if you sit here, they're just gonna splat you. But you can be a lot safer and you can get a lot more important paint from up here. So at this point, I would have rather seen you push. But I just wanted to show this from a bird's eye view to show the difference in backliner value during this play. This went poorly because you weren't in a position to help your team. They shouldn't have been pushing, truthfully, but you know, they were trying to fight for mid, and if you were positioned a little bit better, you definitely could have helped way more. But again, like, your teammates are taking weird fights now. They're doing a little bit of feeding, and I can't blame you for their feeding, but I can blame you for not being in a position to help. Yeah, and like, your teammates are having to fight for this paint as short range shooters instead of you safely fighting for this paint as a backliner. And this is where your range matters a lot. And all this is tough. Wouldn't worry about this too much. At this point, I do think that we shouldn't squid roll backwards here. I think we should still, like, I like that we're backing up in this spot, but I think we overly back up. Like, I don't think we need to do this. I think we get back into this corner before we roll, and we just start charging up our ball point. If this person commits to this fight, we're happy. It gives our teammates some time to paint. Realistically, if we get, it's like the same thing as this play when the 52 was pushing us like this, except we're on even ground and not on low ground. You know, we should be able to get our short range paint out first and prevent them from actually getting in range to splat us. But even if we go down here, that little bit of time can definitely provide us some value. But because we commit so far back and we're charging so far back and out of play, this is how they are able to get these plays. Again, our teammates could have played it a little bit better, but I can't blame our teammates for not being there, or for not stopping this completely. I don't tend to trust solo QPs as much. That's fair, but it's also just important for us to be solid. We can't trust our solo queue teammates, but they should be able to trust us that we're doing our role. And I think we're trying to do too much. And we're taking suboptimal positions because we feel like we need to do too much in this spot. And because we try to do too much, we end up performing our role of what we need to do very poorly. And then our teammates can't trust us because of the way that we're positioning in this spot. But again, I like that you're getting paint here, but you could be getting all this paint from mid right now. And you could be getting more paint. And you could be helping with these fights. So again, very small thing, but I do want to mention it because I showed it before on Umami. Like, even as a splash, which obviously is a ball point, you can get way more paint. But as a splash, you can sit here and you can get all of this paint. So if I can do that as a splash, you can definitely do this in your short range. So instead of, like, I like that you want to get this area painted, but we can position up here to get this paint. We don't have to like swim over here, paint this, swim back. Like, this is just so slow and inefficient. I forgot what I called it before. There isn't really a great concept. I think I said it was on Manta when I was showing it off, but it was like, it was a couple, it was probably like a week and a half ago. But we're talking about like central painting locations, I think I said. I just made up some term because there's no real term for it. But this is like, being top mid is a very good central paint location, A, because it's in the middle of the map and it has high ground. So we can get paint all in these spots without having to actually move our person all that much. Yes, the overall idea is definitely optimizing our painting and positioning. But like we're out of all this play because we were slow. Again, I like us getting this paint. I just hated the way that we did it. And there were consequences of us doing this. And the fact that we can't push as much. Because our teammates get this first pick even without us. If we were moving up farther, A, they would have more paint to work with. B, we would be up here inkjetting and our team is ready to have a really nice push. We inkjet, we push them back or get kills. Our teammate, you know, our junior gets into place, gets bubble down, we get a score. You know, there's still a really big score we have to get. It's totally doable, depending on how well we get inkjets, how well our teammates are able to get picks. But this play can be a lot faster if we move into position and inkjet in this type of spot. But we're just really slow. I don't know how this plays out, but that's what I'm seeing from this perspective. So we used crab and got no value. So we use that, so we're gonna look to inkjet, right? Okay, now we're inkjetting. There we go, I like this. Okay, there's one on snipe. Yeah, we need to be more aggressive on this. Okay, nice, this is good. That whole play was really good. It was a little bit slow. This whole play was a little bit slow. If we're faster, we get way more value out of it, but I like the way that you set this up. You took mid, you got some paint down, you used your ink tank with fizzy bombs, then you moved into a good position. I think you could have been a little bit deeper. Like you end up inkjetting like here or something, or like you're right here. I would have liked to seen you like on this ledge because you're immediately going over the ledge. And it is risky to immediately go over a ledge because if there's someone sitting right here, like they can just splat you. But in the context of your teammates pushing here, the enemy team is watching this. And that's why inkjetting on this ledge is important because you're taking an off angle with your inkjet here. You don't have to for me, I wouldn't worry about this shark because your team is ready to push. And ideally, and this is where doing it faster matters, because if you did it when your teammate was crabbing back here, or when your teammates initially had a numbers advantage, then we're chilling. And if you were really worried about the shark in this type of spot, then the fizzy bombs that you throw, yo, Riki Sneaky, that's a cool name. Thank you for the follow, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Then the fizzy bomb that you throw, instead of throwing it in this area, throw it on this thing. You know, help out your push with the fizzy bomb. That last fizzy bomb you throw, just like throw it high and just get it on this area and then move into position and have that cover you. It's a little bit of it's not a perfect idea, it's a little bit creative, but this is where you can take those risks. You're totally right in terms of potentially worrying about it, but don't have it make your play suboptimal. You're at a point now where it's, you know, 80, before it was 80 to 31, and there's not a lot of time left. We need a big push. So like you saying that we're worrying about sharking, this is a totally valid concern, but we don't have time to worry about it, you know? It's like the con of it is like, yeah, we immediately jet, we go down, and we lose the game that we're more than likely probably going to lose on average anyways without a big play. But if they aren't there, and we are able to get in that kind of position, we're able to control this area a lot more. So I want to show it from a high advantage, or like a high ground. So you inkjet, and like you're focused on this, which like this isn't bad. But we really need to get on this person. And I'd rather this person be watching us and us have like an immediate threat there. But they're not going to be watching you. They're going to be watching the push itself. I'm sure if we watch it from their perspective, they're probably not looking for you. They're probably waiting for people to move forward, and they're sharking for like a pick. Like they see you, certainly. But yeah, they're worried about this. You could have inkjet over here and you're totally fine. You know, they were, I will give them some credit, they were positioned in a way to where if you were super far, again, this is like super minor. If you inkjetted here, which I wouldn't want you to do, they would actually see you and there's a chance you could get picked. But if you inkjet like right here, it's like on this little tarp area, they're never looking for you here, and they don't know exactly where you're positioning and where you're coming from with the way that they're sharking in this type of spot. Like they play it pretty well, but at the end of the day, they're always going to focus on the shinier object. So, and like part of your push, I don't know if anyone goes down. Okay, you do get the pick, but we slow down a little bit because of it. But again, overall, this play is great. This play is really great, but we need a phenomenal play, and even better than great play in order to win this game. And I don't think that we get enough value. We could still win this game, but I don't know if we get enough value from that play alone. Nice. Nice, that's nice. Okay, maybe we do. Any clam scores? Nice, okay. All right, hey. We made it work. We were able to get the pick and still have quite a huge advantage to be able to get that final push. So at the end of the day, we made it work, but we probably could have increased our odds in a lot of spots. And again, in that spot, I'm totally fine with us taking a risk. That initial push that we had when we had a bubble and we had crab, I would much rather us go for a big inkjet play there than have to rely on a push afterwards. But either way, good stuff. I like at that in part, you're moving around and staying alive. You take their dome and they're able to watch that area. Like you play that well. I think throughout this game, the constant theme that I'm seeing is that we're playing this stuff very well, but I think we can be more optimal in spots. Move faster and being positioned faster? Yes. But that's something that's going to be very that's like something that you're always going to be working on. That advice could be generally given to like anyone. It just doesn't mean it's bad advice. But you know, as you continue to improve, you're always actively looking to move faster and be into positions faster. That's a good way of putting it. And that's something that you should actively be pushing yourself to do, is to be faster. It's a strange looking Tetris block. Real. All I see is Tetris pieces when I play Splatoon 3. All right. So yeah, overall, like I said, very good stuff. I like the way that, like, I like you repositioning. I like some of the risks that you take. But yeah, I think there's spots where we can be a little bit more optimal. So I think the first thing is that we want strong positions. Oops. So I'm gonna put POS for positions. And this is especially after retake. So after the enemy team pushes and they're pushing back and it's a 4v2, especially after your team has done the hard part and you have a player advantage, you have more space to work with and you have more, like your team has a more dominant presence than the enemy team. In those spots, we have to take good spots. We can't sit, like drop over here and just sit here for like another 45 seconds, because that's how we got ourselves into this massive hole, is because our team had an advantage and we just took a suboptimal position, where instead we can get into this type of position and hold stronger. And if we're able to get picks with our team when they're fighting, then we can look to reposition, get up here, and then we can push. And then once we're in this type of position here, then we can look for the big push. That's where at the very end of the game, we're up here, we're throwing fizzy bombs. You know, we can look to inkjet more aggressively. This is the comfort spot. But I think we had more opportunities, likely opportunities, for us to get into the spot outside of the last 30 seconds of the game. But a big reason why we were unable to do so was because we were sitting in this spot not being very effective for a good majority of this game. So that's a really important part of this. The other thing I would say is just focus, or like, I'm just gonna say paint habits, because it really is just like painting habits. I'll list what they are, but there's a lot of like small painting things that I want us to focus on. Central paint locations. So if you want to get this area painted when you're pushing out, instead of going this way, painting a little bit, then moving this way, painting a little bit, and like, you don't have to physically be in this area. If you want to paint that area, just get up here and just paint it. And then you can move over here, paint this area, move up, paint this area, move up, paint this area. And we can do all of that from the comfort of top mid, where we have a good vantage point, where we're able to, see everything that's going on. And when we're up here in top mid, we can kind of start prioritizing where we need to paint. Because our teammates, when they're pushing up, they might paint this whole right side for us. So we get up here, we paint here, and we're like, oh, we're moving forward. This whole area is safe. I don't have to worry about it. I can start being more aggressive. Which leads us to the second thing, which is paint over ledges before moving up. It's important that we do it before we start moving up, because when we find ourselves in these types of situations where we're sitting in mid and we're in a nice position, but it's not nice of us in order, like, we can't start moving forward because there's potentially people pushing. There might already be people up here, and we don't want to hold, like, we can't continue to move forward unless we have a buffer around us to maneuver, especially not as a backliner, you know. Sometimes if you're playing like a 52 or something, or you're playing a T-Tech, Splash in certain cases, although Splash is pretty good at painting, so it usually doesn't have to do that. Sometimes they do have to like take some suboptimal plays, and they can't, there's opportunities where they definitely can paint over ledges before they move forward, but sometimes they don't have that luxury. As a ballpoint, we have that luxury. However, as a ballpoint, it's very difficult to do that because you have to like get comfortable with like your fall off shots. Like if you're sitting right here, you should be able to get this type of paint. But if you did it on, like if you went into recon mode right now and tried it, you may not get it on the first attempt, because I don't know where you have to position. I don't know how high you have to like look up into the air. You know, the more that you play the weapon, I think you said you're about 2 months in, the more you play it, the more comfortable you get, you'll be a lot better. But we want to get to that point. And generally, if we just start painting, like if we do long range paint over this ledge, like naturally it'll hit these areas as well. So there's like little tricks that we can do to like make that process easier for us. But that's definitely an important piece. I worry about moving up before my teammates do as the anchor. Should I still do that? Oh, that's the thing. As the anchor, you can paint for your teammates in safe spots. Ballpoint can cover a lot of these. As long as you take high ground, you should be able to cover these spots behind your team, if that makes sense. You know, they might be fighting over here and you might be the one taking mid, but you can get this paint before they actually get into that position. And you can paint this area and get some paint over here before they push in. So you're still doing that. Or like that still is the goal. Like you don't want to push up, because the reason why we're doing this type of painting is to avoid being in a spot like when we're sitting here and there was enemy paint over here, there's enemy paint over here, and there's an enemy right here, and they're wailing and they have a wall. Like this is the spot we want to avoid, which again, you drop off and you avoid that spot. And I really liked your decision making there, but I didn't like us getting into the spot in the first place. And a lot of that is because we're not just generally painting. This is still going to naturally happen in random spots, but it can happen less often by just good painting habits. I just don't paint as fast in long range mode as for short range. Yeah, but you can still hit those spots is the important part. Yes, you're not going to be able to like paint as fast as a splash or paint as fast as in short range as you are in long range. But as you get more comfortable painting, you can kind of switch between the modes and, you know, paint where you need to paint at that time. And again, this is where the YouTube links that I gave you, start looking at how they set up their painting and everything. Because they'll start short range mode so that they have a little bit of a buffer to move. And then they'll, a lot of times when you long range paint, it's so that you're hitting these max range points. Like you might sit behind this cover and max range paint to hit this area. Or like you might be here and you might max range paint to hit this area. I don't know if this is actually proper or not. I have to go in and check. But you're doing this to hit certain spots. Like on Scorch Gorge, there's certain areas, like you can sit on top left as ballpoint, and you can arc over your own snipe in long range mode. And yes, you're not going to be doing all your painting in long range mode, but if you want to check that ledge underneath your snipe and check for any people sharking that are looking to push the ramp and they're like really close to your ledge, it requires map knowledge and comfort with painting, but that's something that you can cover from those spots. So part of it is knowing what spots you should be in and what paint you can get from those spots. You know, a lot of the long range painting is going to be very deliberate. Like the short range paintings, just general, just, you know, get as much paint as I can. I need to paint for ballpoint, or I need to paint for inkjet. I need to paint for, you know, just paint so my teammates can maneuver so that I don't get pushed by a short range shooter or some sort of like short range weapon. But the long range is you're either poking at people or you have a deliberate like area to paint in mind. And I'm sure there's even more nuance in the way I'm describing it here, but just to kind of give you some guidance. There's also other painting habits. I'm trying to remember what they are. I might have forgotten them. Based off of like what I think you should specifically be working on. Yeah, I mean, most of it is like high ground. When you're in high ground and you start trying to paint more, I guess I would just say main greater than sub or general paint. Because we used our sub in spot, like there were spots, especially later on when we were trying to push, where we used our sub really well, or we used our sub when we were defending. We used it very well. So I'm not saying never use your sub, but there's a lot of times, especially early on in the game, where like you're trying to get poke in very unneeded areas and you're tanking your ink economy. Instead of getting these 2 lines of paint, we could already have a ballpoint special. We could be up in mid. We could have this area painted and we could be close to having an inkjet ready and ready to push. And that's how we play faster. Playing faster doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we need to move faster, or oh, we need to react. Instead of moving to the position and reacting in 1.5 seconds, because it took us a little bit of time to think about what we need to do next. You know, oh, we moved in 0.25 seconds because I just know that this is the next spot I need to do. That is part of being faster, but part of being faster as well is the central painting. We're slow, not because we're painting slow or reacting slow. This is it was very fluid of you to move this way, paint over here, move this, move back this way, get this paint, and then get up here. Like that was a very fluid motion from you, but overall, you're slow getting into position to start pushing forward, and you miss this overall window because of this. It's not that this itself is bad under a microscope. Mechanically, that was fine, but the whole idea in the pathing was almost game throwing. Fortunately, you were able to kind of pop off at the end, and your team was able to pop off at the end to salvage this game. But we throw our push because we did whatever this was over here. And the same thing. We get 1 line of paint with Fizzy Bomb 1, 1 line of paint from Fizzy Bomb 2. Now we have no ink, so we're wasting a bunch of time, and we're not getting the general paint to be able to fight for mid, to get paint over in these areas in case we need to retreat, in case they start using their specials, they whale us, they tri-strike us, we have a Kraken on us. When we need to retreat to areas, we need to paint that stuff before we have to actually retreat. And that's what we should be doing instead of throwing, these two Fizzy Bombs at the very beginning. And also we can threaten them with the with the inkjet by getting more of this other paint. And that is what I mean when I say be faster. It's not that you're necessarily like mechanically like I don't think you're that far off. You know, I'm sure there's spots where you could be optimal climbing over ledges and doing everything, but like that bigger picture of what your end goal is and what you're trying to do. And I think because we're autopiloting and throwing these fizzy bombs, I feel like the bigger issue here, like a symptom is us throwing these fizzy bombs, but I think the bigger issue is that you don't have a good plan of what am I doing in the opening? What am I trying to do? You know? And in order to figure out what I'm trying to do, and again, this is something everyone goes through. I'm not trying to like pick on you specifically, but I'm trying to help you think about what you need to do next. And so in order to think about, okay, what do I want to do in the opening? Always paint for your special. If you're a painting weapon, always paint for your special. You want to get in strong high ground, which you did. Like you got high ground, which is great. You took this area. I can actually just play through the beginning. But you didn't get the paint before the high ground, which is where we start getting into trouble. Like, A, we're just a little bit slow. But like we're getting into high ground and like there's just a lot of enemy paint that we have to deal with. There's a lot of areas where we don't have paint, where we should also, like, we should be having this paint. Like, we have this nice little combo with our T-Tech, but because we wasted our time with fizzy bombs, again, a fizzy bomb across mid is like an okay idea. Situationally. Again, if you're throwing a fizzy bomb across mid, it's because you're looking for someone else to like start moving up. But you haven't supported this T-Tech enough at the beginning here because you did not paint enough. They have nowhere to go. They can't shark and like slowly move themselves forward and pick the right time for them to jump on this person or for them to jump on someone that's moving this way. They're at the mercy of you like painting, or they have to give away their position, which like they're shooting right now. So like they're just taking a fight. And I think they had to get this pick. But they're very vulnerable right now and they don't have a lot of a lot of room to actually maneuver in case, you know, I'm not sure why 52 isn't playing as fast. I don't know why these people aren't necessarily playing as fast. I can understand the junior a little bit, but 52 and T-Tech should be a lot farther forward at this spot. And your T-Tech should be under more pressure than they are. Again, fortunately, these people, in my opinion, make mistakes, which allows your T-Tech to get in close range without this issue. But this situation could have played out many other ways. And those two fizzy bombs are the reason why we throw this opening in those other ways, basically. So yeah, paint for special if you're a painting weapon. Get into these types of positions. You know, I think as a ballpoint, like getting in the spot is good. But instead of throwing this fizzy bomb, instead of throwing this fizzy bomb, and then like doing like this weird routing to get up to here, we start moving forward. We're painting as we're moving forward. We get paint over these ledges. We get into this position, we paint in front of us, or we can throw a fizzy bomb if we have the paint for it, and then we like paint in front of us and look for this type of play. And then if we see, oh, there's no one here, okay, let me start getting some paint on this little like jump up area, because they could potentially push us from that way. And if they're not there, oh, okay, they're not there, which means they're probably sharking here and they're looking for an opportunity to push up. Let me make sure I get paint over here. Or, you know, you can either get paint here, or if your teammates are already ready to push, instead of long range painting this from this type of position, instead you could throw a fizzy bomb. Okay, let me get this fizzy bomb and I'll actually push up with this fizzy bomb because I have a teammate flanking and I want to be there to help them out. And there's different ways that you can do it, but in all of these scenarios, establishing good paint around your area and around what your team's doing is really important. Also, wonderful place. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's what we need to be working on. But we need to be doing that. Like, the opening is always important, and the opening is something that we can really practice because, you know, we do have to adapt depending on our comp, depending on the enemy comp, but the opening of every game stays the same. Neither team has points. Neither team, or sorry, they don't have any paint. The map isn't painted at all. You know, both people have to go from their base and like fight for mid and get into mid. all that stuff is the same variable. So I always put emphasis on the opening because it's the same every time. And it's something we can iterate and see the results of our actions every single time. But yeah, the same way I was just thinking about the opening is the same way that we need to think about us pushing when we're trying to score, like we did at the very end of the game. We need to be thinking about it when we're playing defense and, you know, we're waiting for one of our teammates got picked early, so we have to wait for them to come back in before we can actually start pushing. In all of these little moments, we need to be well thought out in these types of areas. And again, I'm not trying to discredit you. You're already thinking about this in a lot of spots, but there's also a lot of spots where you're just autopiloting and throwing bombs. And I want to stop. It's not that the decisions you make, I do disagree with a lot of the autopilot decisions you made, but any time that you're autopiloting is an opportunity where you're potentially like missing out on learning. Looks like great content, gladly following for more. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That really means a lot. What do you mean by openings playing out the same? So with openings, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know if we're gonna get to a second replay today. We might only be able to do one. But this is a good question, so I want to go over it. Give me 1 second, I gotta make sure I... Okay, we can't check into the tournament yet. I think we can check in. No, this is good. This is good. I love these questions. This is why I do this stuff, is because this is the discussion that I love. I love going on long tangents over stuff like this. So, when it comes to openings, there's just... The reason why I say that they play out the same, it's not because they play out the same every time, but you should have... Like, you shouldn't go into every opening not knowing what your end goal is. You should have a very clear idea of what you're trying to do. Especially if you're playing in a competitive environment, you should know what you're looking for. So we just played on Umami, so we'll just go back over here. But at a very high level, like, you shouldn't have like 10 different strats for an opening. Or it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm playing this map, I'm gonna start painting forward, and then, this time I'm gonna go this way. And I'm like, oh, I've never, so you'll start and you're sitting here, and this is your opening. And the next time you play this in the rotation, it's like, oh, well, I went right last time, so let's just go left this time. Okay, I'm gonna go left, I'm gonna sit right here, and, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, you should be very thoughtful about what you're trying to do. Because both teams are starting in their spawn, and they're having to push in. The map is completely empty at the beginning of every map. There's certain goals that you need to be establishing at the beginning of every map. And for you specifically, you want to get high ground. So there's a good chance that you're going to want to either end up here, or maybe even end up here. And, oh shoot. Okay, let me just put the controller down for a second, because if I'm going to mark the minimap. So, you may want to be in this type of spot. Because, like, ideally you can get into mid. Like, this is, like, kind of like an ideal condition. But if you're playing against, like... Let's say you're playing against, like, a Sploosh or something. Like, you're playing against Sploosh in, like, a very fast comp. You're playing against Sploosh, you're playing against, a Reflux or something that's painting their base for missiles at the beginning. As much as you want to get into this spot, a Sploosh with run or swim speed and a curling bomb and, like, getting in, like, they're probably going to beat you up here. And even if you can get up here, they're going to be painting into mid faster, and you're going to get missiled very quickly at the beginning of the match. So in all these spots, against certain comps, you're going to have to adapt. Even if you want to be here every time, sometimes you're unable to be here. Or, maybe you want to push up, because there's a little pillow here. Maybe we want to push up to, like, right here, but if they have a charger in this spot, or if they have a leader here, we have to be careful about how we position in mid. Because if we sit like right here, and there's a leader here, then we're gonna get splatted in this type of spot. So like there are times, depending on your comp, depending on the enemy comp, where you need to be able to adapt. You might have a sploosh on your team, or you might have a very aggressive comp. And if you see all of your teammates like trying to like go for these really aggressive plays at the beginning, then maybe it's important for you to get that fizzy bomb out, because you want to get a fizzy bomb wherever your teammates are trying to fight. And that chip that you get, and that paint that you get, and that space that you control with the fizzy bomb is important at the beginning of this match specifically, because our teammates are like very aggressive with the way that they're pushing in. You can't predict this every time, but you should have a general game plan. You shouldn't end up here for no reason. You shouldn't end up here for no reason. You shouldn't be over here for no reason. Like playing override wide right is like an interesting idea, and it's totally something you could do. But, you know, I want to have a reason of why you're doing these things. Why would, as a ballpoint, why would I not want to take mid and instead go for like this wide play? And that would probably be if I was in a situation where I had another backliner. If there was someone else that was better at taking mid than I was, which as a ballpoint were probably one of the better players. But, you know, if we have like, for whatever reason, if we had 3 shooters on our team and they all crowded to get up here, yeah, we don't want to be a 4th person up here. So yeah, maybe we can go for this type of play. Could it be for predictability for the enemy team, or from the enemy team? Yeah, I mean, that's another thing as well. And that's the thing in this type of situation. You played against the like you're playing against 3 shooters and a heavy. So like you're trying to get into the spot ideally. The heavy's also trying to get into this spot ideally. So yes, there is an expectation where, okay, I'm going to push into here, and then there's likely going to be a heavy either here or they're going to be somewhere around here. They ended up going step up here in your game, and your T-Tech was able to like find this pick and was able to get there before, and that's how y'all got your first splat, because your T-Tech just beat them to mid, and this heavy didn't account for it. But yes, the predictability matters. And sometimes you can be unpredictable, but don't be unpredictable for the sake of being unpredictable. It's almost, especially unless there's like a top pro somehow in my chat right now, literally all of us would benefit from doing a solid, like the same solid opening every time than trying to go for something crazy and unpredictable. If you're in a tournament, if you're playing against a team and this is like game 5 of a set or something, and both teams have had 4 games to learn each other's habits, or if it's a team you play often, you know, sometimes mixing it up is good, but don't, like, that's too meta, that's way farther away from like where we're at now. Right now, we want consistency, we want to be very solid, we want to have a lot of flexibility, because if we're sitting over here as a ballpoint, we're not super flexible. If the enemy team's fighting in mid and they just immediately rush mid and they have multiple people in mid and they're painting over here, like we can't really take this fight anymore. Like we can try to get shots, but we're fighting it. Like in order to play wide right over here, we're compromising giving up mid, and that's why we wouldn't ideally want to be here under ideal conditions. But depending on what our comp is, and depending on, you know, how our teammates maneuver and stuff, like there might be people stepping on toes, and we might have to reposition and do something kind of quirky. We might have to play, you know, around this little thing here and play over here instead, because, you know, we already have someone that's up here and they're already like pushing through and stuff. But when I say the openings are like predictable, or like they should be consistent, like everyone should have a role of what they want to do. If you have someone that wants to paint for special, so like your junior wanted to paint for special, so they were like painting, or sorry, their junior, their C junior was painting for special, so like they didn't push out as fast, but they're 52 in their T-Tech, between 52 T-Tech and heavy. One of them should probably be fighting for mid. One of them should be, you know, like you should generally cover all sides of the map. They wouldn't want to put their whole team like this and fight this way. I mean, if they have their junior up here, I guess it's not the worst thing. But, you know, ideally when it comes to strategy, you don't want to leave like 2 people an entire side of the map open. If you're going for like a specific play, then you can take that risk. You know, like if they played, let's say they played like 4 people over here, or maybe they play like 2 people up top mid, and they play 2 people on right. If they leave this glaring open over here, it's not good. But if they're very specifically trying to push, like if they're trying to take mid and they're very fast and they're trying to push anyone that's over here, and they know that they have a 4-person advantage versus like, you know, the 1 person here, the 1 person here, and this person that's playing the left side on the enemy team, if they're out of the fight, then they can go for this aggressive play if they're fast enough. But again, this is all like very quirky plays, and most of the review stuff that I talk about, unless it's like a very top player and it's like in a long set, like don't even worry about this. This is like so much metagaming that you're focusing on the wrong stuff, basically. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that kind of gives... I'm going to go over some of the painting and stuff, but that's the idea of what I mean by all of this. And again, my ballpoint skills aren't great, so don't make fun of me. But when we're in this spot, when it comes to painting over ledges, like we can paint... Like we can generally like paint, like this is like general paint. It's like getting paint in all these areas. Obviously at the beginning of the game, you're not going to get this amount of paint coverage because you're going to be getting pushed, and like you don't have as much time as I do with infinite time in Recon mode. But like as we're starting to push, we can get this paint. You know, this is where we can paint around their ledge. This is where we can paint around their jump up. So like if there was a heavy stuck in this spot, one thing I do want to mention, which I'm still making the script for the painting over ledges video. When you're painting over ledges, you have to be careful not, like if you're jumping to hit certain spots, you have to make sure that, you know, if you're jumping in this type of area, that there isn't, so like you are putting yourself at a little bit of risk that someone could be in a spot, and while you're going for that paint, they can be underneath you, which is why you generally want to be in safer spots when you're going for this type of paint. Like I wouldn't be sitting in going for this long range paint if there were people in mid that were threatening me. It would be like, we have mid control for free, but I want to get paint before I get into this type of position so that someone can't, you know, run in like they did in the match that we just watched. And if you are able to push up, like, yeah, with short range paint, you can probably do this instead, and you can probably get this paint. And anytime that you can use your short range paint, it's better. But sometimes you can't... I don't know breakpoints on this map. But like, let's say we want to get over this ledge. You know. Like, you're probably relatively safe if it's a 4v4, like, sitting back here. And if they have, like, a roller or something that's, like, sharking in this type of spot, we can, like, actively try to get this long-range paint and paint around them. And, you know, if I'm a splash, I can also go for this play. Again, if I'm going for this type of paint as a splash, I have to be careful that the roller isn't just sitting here and is ready to jump on me while I'm vulnerable painting. But, you know, all weapons are able to do it. But if you can help your teammates, you know, even over here, you might be able to... you can't quite get that paint. But you can maneuver a little bit. And like you can just get paint over in this area very safely. And you can paint behind this ledge to give your teammates information. So that if there's someone sharking here and they're looking for a play and they're looking to, you know, pop out this way, or they're looking to pop out this way, from a very safe distance as a backliner, you can get this information without ever being at risk of getting splatted. Again, if you're doing it from up here, you have to make sure that there's no one immediately around, because this is potentially risky. This is where the context of the match matters, the context of where people are positioned, the information that you have. A lot of times when you're painting over ledges, you're just trying to get information. So you want to get information as safely as possible. And yes, in this spot, you can totally get a fizzy bomb. And if your teammates are pushing at that point, it may not be a bad idea to get the fizzy bomb. But if you're just generally getting like paint to check this stuff, you know, like having the extra paint matters a lot. Sometimes you can support your teammates not by doing damage, but by painting around the person they're fighting. Like even if you don't have directly a good angle as a ballpoint to fight the enemy team, you can still get a ton of value as a ballpoint far away by just painting over a ledge that your teammate's trying to push around because you know someone's there. And there's a time for a fizzy bomb, there's a time for using your main weapon, it's a time for short range fire versus long range fire. That's the you know, that's what makes Splatoon fun, is because there isn't always a perfect answer. Sometimes there are perfect answers, but in 99.9% of cases, there's never a perfect answer. And you need to use the right tool for the right time. So sometimes that leads to more questions than answers. So sorry I didn't give you a perfect answer, but at least that should get your brain like thinking about stuff in that kind of way. Also, Brolivia, you're talking about the BP 100% win button secret combo. I'm not sure what that is. Also, what's up, Frucane? I saw your message. I don't think I said anything directly, so I apologize. But yeah, consistency's better. Well said, well said. Your frontline aggressive players are meant to disrupt consistency from your enemy. That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah. Anytime that you paint, anytime you throw bombs, like, yeah, you're trying to disrupt that consistency. Oh, it was a joke? Oh, sorry. I thought maybe there was potentially something. I mean, you don't know the secret 100% win button combo with BP? Top secret. No secret tech. That's what I'm saying. What's up, Em? But that's how we want to look into this stuff. Honestly, I'm probably going to have to leave earlier than I think. Sorry for not the long stream, but I could have either not streamed or I could have done this. So hopefully there's some value here. But really quickly, I just want to talk a little bit about... Actually, okay, we'll stay on BP. But I want to show another... I just want to show one more map. I always show Scorch Gorge because it's like the perfect example. And it's the one I'm most familiar with. But we'll choose something else. I feel like all the maps I've like... All the maps that I know, I like always choose those. What's a map that I like never go on? Honestly, no, let's do Manta. We could do Barnacle and Dime, but like who wants to play that map? Let's be real. Flounder. Yeah, we could do Flounder. Sure, let's do Flounder. And again, like I'm not well versed. I'm kind of going on the fly with this one. But Flounder is a very interesting map, especially on something like zones. But basically always, because like when you're pushing out of your base, you're pushing into high ground, and it's like sad. When you're pushing out as BP, I don't really know exactly. I don't know if you'd want to play through left or play through right. I think ideally you probably want to play through left, because if you can get like, this is like where you're happy, like up here or over here, or especially on this plat. But I'll show some like defensive paint like as we're moving forward. Because again, if you have a bunch of short range shooters on your team, like, you know, as you're moving forward, like you can get paint all along this ramp without, you know, if there's a roller or if there's a T-Tech or something, like you can get all of this paint safely for your team. And then as you continue moving forward, again, I don't know what these painting ranges are, but like you can get some paint in this area. So if there's someone sharking, and like you can see that, like, yes, we can get decent paint coverage up here in this area, but it's not like perfect. Like there could totally be a bucket, you start shooting over the ledge and they just sit back here. And then, okay, they stop painting, I'm in this position. So this doesn't give you full information. Like you can't just get this paint and be like, oh, like there's no one here because I'm not getting hit markers. Like enemy team's gonna play smartly around it, but establishing some of that paint is important And then maybe you can get a fizzy bomb while your teammates are trying to push it. That was not a good fizzy bomb. Maybe, you know, with short range paint, you can paint over here while your teammates are trying to push. But like you can see that like getting this general paint before your team's ready to move is really good. Also on this map, people love like one of the nice like sharking up here is like the vanilla, like you're chilling. Certain weapons like a machine can be very strong up here where they don't have to worry about the poke for most weapons off the ramp over here. And they'll sit up here. But if people are pushing up this wall or if there's people pushing in, a lot of people will love to shark specifically in this spot because there's cover from this big wall over here. And like most people don't really expect it. If I'm playing a splash, like I can't really hit this area and I'm very often just gonna like push this way and I'm not really checking this specific area here. So this is a very common shark. And because we know it's a common shark, it's good to get that information before our teammates push in. Because the last thing we want to do is leave a, you know, we don't want to leave like a bucket or a brush or something sitting here. And then, oh, we get a pick. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh, we have 3 people in top mid. And then like all of our backs are turned to this person. And then they do a couple of swipes. And then you basically lose the game on the spot, you know? So like as we're pushing in, it's like sometimes it can be a good habit. You know, you can get a fizzy bomb here. Oh, that wasn't a good fizzy bomb. You can work on getting a better fizzy bomb so it like does damage there. We can potentially look, you know, to get long range paint in this type of spot. And at least, you know, the goal here isn't to get a pick because if they start getting shot at, they're just going to back up. But, you know, if we can cover these areas for the overall intent that like when our teammates start pushing up when we have an advantage, we're not going to be thrown off by something like this. Or, you know, there's a lot of spots where your team will get 3 of them down and then the last person on their team or the last 2 people on their team are like sitting back here. Their backs are to the wall. They need to jump. But in certain cases, people will try to fight. In certain spots, they might have special. You know, you might be a bunch of shooters and you're playing against like a wiper or a stamper and they're like, oh, I have more range than them. Or maybe it's a ballpoint. Oh, I have more range than these shooters. So if they push me, then, you know, I'll win this fight. And they like have this false sense of confidence. But when you're pushing these people, you know, even if you can't directly hit them, if they're all the way back there, as you're moving forward, this is where you can play a little bit slower, get paint behind this ledge, so that they can't run over to that spot if they need to. Because like when they start getting pushed, they might get uncomfortable and they might want to use this area as like a place to sit and like, you know, not be able to take shots directly from shooters. So like as you're moving forward, you can preemptively like hit those spots and just generally paint so that this person's back's to the wall and they literally have nowhere to maneuver. Because there's a lot of weapons that, you know, even if their positioning's not in a great spot and they have 2 people pushing them in this spot, if they have paint to maneuver, they can go for some funny plays. And we can cut that off without doing any damage by just getting good paint on them. Just paint over. And like very quickly you can like get in range of them, but getting that type of paint is important. Often people will shark behind this little block here. And so as your teammates are pushing up on main ramp, get this paint. You know, get this paint so that when your teammates are pushing this, there isn't someone that's like sharking right here. People love sharking right here if they're short range, and they just like get 3 picks if they're not being checked. And like everyone on the team should be checking for this, but it's good to be able to know this. That shark spot's very sensitive to dying to random curly balls, not talking from personal experience. I've sharked in this spot and died to some silly stuff, so I know how it goes. You know, another thing, if they're pushing up this wall, for example, you know, like if you know that someone's pushing up this wall, you can have 2 options. You can pre-fire this area, and the second that they climb the wall, they're going to immediately start taking damage. The other thing that you can do is like paint behind them. Just get paint behind this person that's sharking the wall. So that if they're sitting here and they're committing to sharking this play, if while they're sitting here and waiting for an opportunity to pop out, if you don't give them an opportunity to pop out and you paint behind them, then once your teammates are ready to push, they can't drop. They either have to take this weird fight, or they like drop back and they have to like paint for themselves, which slows them down, and your teammates are able to do stuff. So this is where like painting is like super, super important. And sometimes when you make decisions, you can think about the game in terms of that type of painting. Again, when you're holding mid, and like some of this you might actually be able to short range it. Oh shoot. But if you're sitting in mid, you can like walk across this area. You can get paint, you know, all in this area. You know, you can walk back this way. You can paint your own side quickly. You can move back this way. Get this paint, you know, move back this way. And again, I'm not doing it perfectly. This is where you as a BP player has to be better. But like, look at all the paint you can get just by hitting these 4 points in mid. And if you have run speed, you can get it a lot faster than what I'm doing now. My build is not, it's not BP safe. Also, Inkling Girl 34, thank you so much for the follow. Why can't I talk? I need water. I need to hydrate. But thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. I think there was some conversation. Make sure I get all that. What would you say is a good backline positioning for this map? It depends. Again, like on openings and stuff, I would expect you to want to be like back here. When your team's fighting for mid, being here is really good. You know, but again, as a ballpoint and like as a heavy and stuff, you can also paint. You can paint into the, shoot, what's it called? You can paint into the gray area. So like you're not, technically you can fall off and hit people on the walls, but that's pretty technical. But you can at least get all of this paint in these areas and prevent them from moving. But again, anytime that you go for this type of painting over ledges, you have to be careful that there's not going to be someone pushing you. So like the timing matters, and sometimes you can only get like little bits of paint in this spot. But generally like holding the spot is like pretty solid. You know, as a ballpoint, you can get over this ledge. You probably can at least get paint on the very top of this ledge. But like you can get very general paint. Once your teammates are ready to start pushing up, then you can move this way. Obviously, again, as you're moving forward here, you have to be careful that there isn't, you know, a bucket or a brush or something that's like sharking on this wall. And as you move up, they're ready to like get you. So this is where I say, like, even if you get paint all in, why can't I think of the name of this area? My brain's not working. If you don't, or if you get paint in this, even if you get paint in this area, there's still a chance someone can be sitting on the wall. Trench, thank you. Appreciate you. Yes. So you can paint all of trench, but there still could be someone on the wall. And like, if you're good with fall off, you can actually fall off with ballpoint on trench. I can't do it, so don't, like, that's something you have to try. That's a very cute play that it's not consistent, but sometimes you can go for those types of plays and it's funny and people get clips on twitter.com for it. And we love to see it. But, you know, as you're moving up, still get that paint. As you move up in this spot, there, instead of, you know, you might know that the trench is clear, but there might be someone sitting on this wall. And depending on the situation, if they think you don't know that they're there, then maybe you actually want to focus on pre-firing this area, because they're gonna, the second you get into this spot, they're ready to jump up. But if you're not sure, as you're moving up, you know, just safely start getting paint all around the, all around their back street area, and just start getting this paint. But ideally, once your team like has mid control, you just play mid. You watch this area, you watch this area, like you watch the ramp, you watch this, and you're able to hold this type of spot. And you can hit. There's a lot you can cover. If you're looking to lock them out, like you can sit up here. I probably wouldn't push back here in most cases, unless you're going for like a funny like inkjet play. Me when I go for a funny inkjet play and I get stuck on the wall. Yeah, if you want to go for like this type of play or something, like there are options for you to do stuff like that, but especially on zones, I wouldn't really recommend pushing too much. Yeah, Clan Blitz, totally. Like Clan Blitz, Rainmaker is going to be different. Rainmaker, you have to push in really deep. It's like, as you're playing Rainmaker, you're probably pushing, you're just holding this ramp, I'm guessing. Like you hold this area, you watch left side. In Rainmaker, they have this little like elevated area, so you can actually lob shots over that elevated area and just paint around there. But as your team's pushing, you're probably like holding this type of position. You're just painting in front, watching over these ledges, making sure that, you know, there's no one that's able to potentially flank your teammates. And again, you might need more general coverage around you. But you can see that, like, you know, if you want to check this little pillow, like you can do it very safely and you can paint all around it very easily. And like as you're moving forward, before you're in a position to actually take fights, if you just know to like paint this area, it can help out your team like tremendously. Because they know that this area is cleared, or if this area isn't cleared, this person is stuck. They can't move anywhere. So either they awkwardly have to move, or like they're, you know, maybe they still commit to this play, and like your teammates can potentially look to like throw a bomb or something. But you should be able to get enough paint so that they can't continue to shark on this ledge, but certain ledges don't always work that way. Especially if it's a ledge where there's a wall, because in most spots they're going to be able to still hold on to the wall. So, but yeah, that's just little things to consider. Again, you can even get like paint over here. Sometimes people, and in zones, they like to drop over this ledge and push this wall very quickly. And just the more paint that you can get generally, the better things will be. So in a lot of spots, people will love to like, you know, oh, I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to throw fizzy bombs because people are coming through this way. And I want to like be able to do damage because I want to get picks. And that idea isn't bad. But if you don't have this paint established, when you're going for these very directed plays with your fizzy bombs, or like, you know, if you're looking to push a specific area, you leave the option open for the enemy team to move and flank all these other areas. Which is why on this map specifically, because there's like this drop over here, this wall is kind of annoying depending on your comp. Backline usually just plays pretty central, you know. If the situation gets bad, if your front line starts dying, then you can just back up here and give your teammates jumps in most spots. But generally playing more central and playing behind your team is the best way to go about it in most cases. Insane how much info that's the spot gives if you have it painted. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's something that I'm in the process of making videos, but yes, like paint is one of my biggest realizations in a little bit. Like, it's not like I didn't come up with anything profound. It's just profound to me because I was an idiot before, and then I learned, I'm like, oh, this stuff actually really matters. But as I've learned that it's important, I like think about it and I'm a lot more aware of it. And then when I watch other people that were in the same spot I was before I learned, I'm like, oh, they don't know either. And I think there's a lot of this community, which again, like I didn't know either. But there's a lot of people and teams and stuff that like don't value paint as much. And it's really important to be thinking about paint in this kind of perspective. Because it's a really important part of the game, but it's like, for me, I get so obsessed with it because it's what makes Splatoon very unique. There's a lot of cool things about Splatoon for, you know, the gameplay, the fan base, the community, the art, the music. There's a lot of things to enjoy, but like this part is really like the intricacy of paint when it comes to like competitive stuff matters a lot. And there's a lot of ways where if you have time, that's like if you wipe the enemy team in splat zones, instead of just like immediately pushing forward and like just trying to throw bombs at them as they're coming out of spawn, taking time, getting paint, building specials, all that stuff is really important. The music. Hey, I think we're in the minority when it comes to not enjoying the music. Thank you for reviewing my teammate's VOD. Awesome. Wait, which teammate? And if you want to get any VOD review, awesome segue actually. Thank you so much. Y'all are so great at segues. If anyone would like to get a replay code submitted, also Sakeful Boon, did you did you submit something like a replay in the Discord? Have you done that? If not, we can definitely get to it soon. Oh, you did? Okay. Wait, what's your name in Discord? Oh, oh wait, no? Oh. Well, if you haven't, definitely get the Discord. Or get in the Discord and submit. That's the order that I like go through stuff. And right now, especially since the replay codes broke, and also because we've been powering through them, we should be getting to them soon. Unfortunately, we only did one today because there's like a tournament coming up and I need to like get ready for that. So I apologize that the stream isn't as longer as it could have been, but yeah. Yeah, if you could, I would really appreciate that. That's just like, that's the easiest way for me to like organize all of it. Because I do stuff like before the review, I do stuff after the review with those, and it's just like keeps everything in check. But yeah, anyone that submitted stuff, we'll be getting to it very soon. I can't commit to everything that's been submitted now will be done by this weekend, but everything that's been submitted by now should be done by this weekend. Both mine should be fairly quick. Gotcha. Yeah, we'll definitely be able to get through them all because we're still waiting on some others because people submitted before the patch and then their replays went bye-bye, but they're still like in line, you know, like if whenever they give me a replay, they'll kind of be the next ones to be reviewed. But there is some time in the meantime. I think there's still one or two that we have replays, but other than that, we can kind of keep moving forward. So anyways, yeah, that's it for me. I apologize for the really short stream. I appreciate you all being here, and let me find someone to raid real quick. Is a weird time. I do not know a lot of streamers that are streaming at this time, but I see Arashi streaming, and Arashi's cool. Thank you for the review. Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any additional questions, like if you go back and like, you know, watch it, or if you're stewing on something I talked about and you either want clarification or if you have any pushback on it, you're like, oh, I don't actually agree with you here, I would love to have that conversation. For me, that's what all this is about. So if you have any of those, definitely, oh, that is not the right command. My bad. I would love to have that conversation. I've made mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. But you know, that's where like, that's why I love doing it live, is because y'all have like so many great perspectives on so many different, like from so many different skill sets and so many different weapons, so much competitive experience, or, you know, I've been playing this game for so long, so like this stuff is just second nature to me. All this stuff really helps. Like at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be like right and like, oh, I'm the right person and you need to listen to me. The end goal is for everyone to be able to learn, and you all help me a ton when it comes to learning. Sometimes through your gameplay, I'll like pick up tech. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. So then I get to learn stuff, but you know, the discussions that we have usually are a lot stronger than just what I say specifically. So yeah, y'all are as much of this as I am, and I always appreciate that. Anyways, Arashi is on, why can't I think of the name? Last Resort, Chara's team. Wiper Demon, very good at the game. I think was pushing for a partner way back when. I don't know if they're still doing it or if they even got it partner at this point. But I know that they've been grinding quite a bit and they've had like quite a bit of a following. So anyways, hydrate, enjoy the weekend, enjoy yourself. I can't get on to Discord. Wait, try that. If you're not able to get on it at all, try submitting it. For people that don't have Discord, it's okay. Oh, well, we already raided. Oopsie. But there's a separate Google link. I'll catch them next time they're in stream. My bad. Anyways, take care, everyone. I'll talk to y'all soon.